And this book is nonfiction. What does nonfiction mean? I want you to use your thinking finger. Now I want you to turn and talk to your partner to discuss what nonfiction means. Class.
Yes.
Number 2, what does nonfiction mean? Can you help him out, Tyler?
Nonfiction means that it is true.
That is true. Thank you. Okay, let's start reading the story, Super Grandpa. Gustav Hawkinson was 66 years old. His hair was snow white. His beard was a white bush. His face was rippled with wrinkles whenever he smiled. Gustav Hawkinson looked like an old man, but he didn't feel old, and he certainly didn't act old. Okay, looking at the word ripple, I want you to turn and talk to your partner to discuss what the word ripple means. Class.
Yes.
Number 1, what do you think that the word ripple means? Okay, you think that it means that he had lots of wrinkles on his face. Good job. Okay, everyone for miles around knew Gustav. People saw him on his bicycle, rain or shine, riding through the crooked streets of Grantop, past the bakers and the butchers and the wooden toy makers, over the stone bridge leading out of town, up steep hills scattered with thorns, down narrow lanes bordered by stones, then home again to his morning paper and a bowl of sour milk and lingonberries. Okay, looking at the picture, what do we think Grandpa's going? What do we think he's doing? I want you to turn and talk to your neighbor. Class.
Yes.
Number 16. What do you think Grandpa is doing? Why do you think that he's riding his bike?
I think he is riding his bike because there's a picture he rides that everyone sees every day, and I think he's finished riding his bike and he's going home.
You think he's headed home? Maybe he rides his bike every day? Because it did say that everyone knows him. Good job. One morning, Gustav read something very interesting in the newspaper. There was going to be a bicycle race called the Tour of Sweden. It would be more than 1,000 miles long, and it would last many days. This tour of Sweden is for me, exclaimed Gustav. But you're too old for a bicycle race, said Gustav's wife. You'll kneel over, said his son. It would be the end of you. Okay, just listen to what his son and his wife is saying about him. How do you think he feels? I want you to turn and talk to your neighbor to discuss how you think Gustav feels.
I
ride a bike 1,000 miles, Grandpa? They scoffed. Strut and Pratt, Gustav answered. Silly talk. And he hopped on his bike and rode out to see the judges of the race. How he would tell them that he planned to enter the Tour of Sweden. But this race is for young people, said the first judge. You're too old, Gustav. You would never make it to the finish, said the second judge. We only admit racers who are strong and fit, said the third judge. What if you collapsed in the middle of the race? Strut and Pratt, protested Gustav. I have no intentions of collapsing because I am strong and fit. But the judges were not to be moved. We're sorry, Gustav, they grumbled. Go home. Go home to your rocking chair. Okay, how do you think he feels now that the judges are telling him that he can't enter the race? I want you to turn and talk and discuss that with your partner.
I think Gustav is
Oh, class!
Oh, yes!
Number 5. How do you think Gustav feels?
I think that Gustav feels downcast.
You think that he feels downcast? Good job. Use one of our old robust vocabulary words. Gustav went home, but he did not go to his rocking chair. They can keep me out of the race, he muttered, but they can't keep me off the road. The next morning, Gustav began to prepare for his long ride ahead. He arose with the sun, packed some fruit and rye bread, and cycled far out of town, over rolling hills dotted with ancient castles, across valleys dimpled with lakes, through forests thick with birches and pines. It was mid-afternoon before he returned. The next day, he biked even farther. Each day, he added more miles to his ride. Okay, when we see the word muttered, what does that remind us of? I want you to turn and talk to your neighbor, discussing what the word muttered means. Oh, yeah, class.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Number 18. What do you think the word muttered means?
I think the word mother means Gustav said something very quiet so it won't be heard.
Right, Gustav said something very quietly so he wouldn't be heard. A few days before the race, all the young cyclists boarded a special train to Haparanda in the far north of Sweden, where the race was to begin. But Gustav was not an official racer. He had no train ticket. There was only one way for Gustav to ride in the Tour of Sweden. He would have to pedal 600 miles to the starting line. It took him several days to bike there. He arrived just as the tour was about to begin. All the racers wore numbers, but of course, there was no number for Gustav. So he found a bright red scrap of fabric and made his own. What number should he be? He had an idea. He wasn't supposed to be in the race at all, so he would be number 0. He chuckled as he cut out a big red 0 and pinned it to his shirt. Then he wheeled his bicycle to the starting line. The starting gun went off, and all the young cyclists took off in a spurt. Their legs pumped fiercely, and their bikes sprinted ahead. They soon left Gustav
interruptions, pre-K through second grade may come and buy ice cream. Pre-K through second grade may come and buy ice cream.
The word fiercely, that should remind us of something. I want you to turn and talk to your neighbor to discuss what fiercely reminds you of and what fiercely means. Number 12. What does the word fiercely remind you of?
What the word fiercely reminds me of is one of our old vocals from Kevin and
Hey, John,
Yes, ma'am.
do you have a Roger Jump?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you send him to the office, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And what does the word fiercely mean?
Fiercely means angry, mad, and ready to attack.
Correct. Angry, mad, and ready to attack. That night, the racers stopped at an inn. They were treated to dinner and bed. Hours later, Gustav reached the inn too. But there was no bed for him, so he just kept riding. While the others snoozed the night away, Gustav pedaled into the dawn. Early the next morning, other cyclists passed Gustav, but he kept his steady pace, and late that evening, he again took over the young racers as they rested. In the middle of the night, he napped, for 3 hours on the park bench. So, I want you to think about what we read so far. What do you think Gustav's intentions are? What do you think he's trying to do? I want you to turn and discuss that with your partner. Oh, class. Number 6. What do you think Gustav is trying to prove?
I think Gustav is trying to prove that he is better than the other racers.
Good job. You think that he's trying to prove that he's better than the other racers. On the third morning, Gustav was the first to arrive in the little town of Ululia. A small crowd of people waited, hoping to catch a glimpse of the racers zooming by. Instead, said Gustav, his white beard fluttered in the breeze. His red cheeks were puffed out with breath. Look, cried a little girl. Look, there goes Super Grandpa. Super Grandpa. Everyone craned to see. What does the word crane remind us of? Let's turn and talk to our neighbor about the word Class. Number 20. What does the word crane mean?
Crane means you stretch your neck for you to see something.
Okay, good job. Crane means that you stretch your neck so that you can see something. Okay, we're going to